Here again, welcome to the MasterCAM course. In that lecture, we're going to talk about 5-axis and 4-axis and positioning toolpath. So I'm going to click here. So this is view file, and then I can use the open file options. At that spot, actually, I'm going to click all paths. So when I click here, and maybe we should turn to our desktop here. And then we're going to see the 4-axis positioning example. It is created by using actually SolidWorks. Okay, so I can save my file. Okay, it's the same. You can also find that SolidWorks part in our course. Okay, so actually, okay, when I focus here, we set our file. We can turn to machine and default machine options here. Okay, and after that, of course, we need to organize our and coordinate system. So I'm gonna turn transform options here. Okay, we are working C-plane is a top view. So I just need to select my part and transform and rotate options. With that section, I just write my degree here. This is my degree. Actually, when I look at my C-plane, it's not actually correct right now. You just need to turn to right and use the SAJ button or and that button here. Okay, we are working here right now. You can select that spot and that spot, and then you can see that this is my rotation axis right now. So this is not correct. I'm gonna turn back to front view here. So rotate option, select my part. If I am writing my degree here, you're gonna see that kind of solution. Okay, you can also use the cancel button here. I should turn to actually top view. We can turn to C. Yes, that's right now. We can also turn to VCS options here, and then I can use rotate options, and then we can write our degree. Oops, sorry, that's not 60. Select here, and activate my numlock. Actually, I can write minus 90 degree here. Okay, so I can delete my part. That's okay. That's correct, and we can turn to top view again, like this. Okay, so that is my position actually. When I look at top view, we can also look at the right view here. Okay, so working on that position actually it's not so cool. I am on the right view right now, so we can turn to C-plane is a right view, and then actually I can create some curve on the edge options here like this, and then I can create some line here. We can turn to 2D maybe. Okay, I am on horizontal right now. Can turn to freeform, so that's fine. So we can also create an extra line here, and then we can actually turn to home and analyze options. That's one and that's one. Or we can see here an angle analyze. We can click here and here. So this is my degree actually. I can copy here. Okay, we are focusing on the right view right now. Yes, we can also move our VCS on that view. So this is X, Y, and Z axis. And then we can use transform, select our body, and then we can write here our degree with move options, of course. Okay, when I click here and clear color button, and then actually we can turn to top view again. So after that, it's not actually necessary right now. So I can click the right mouse button and see the right view, and then we can turn to wireframe and create some line here. Of course, this is actually also must be right view because we are working on the 2D options, and then we can click here, and then we can turn to home position and analyze. So this is my line 180 degree. So everything seems fine right now. Okay. So okay. At that point, actually, we're gonna create our toolpath. So that's why maybe we should turn to C plane top. We can also use the plane options, VCS on top, C plane, and tool plane is also on the top view. Then I can use wireframe and parallel line options here. I can select here. Of course, my 2D options, my Z position must be on that line. Okay, we can also delete that one. This is 25 Z position, so I can use parallel line options here. So it maybe can be 12 millimeter like this, and then we can delete that. After that, of course, I can use modify length options. Maybe we can also extend that line like this. Okay, and then I can also create curve on the edge options here to be able to create, and that one we can also extend that line. After that, of course, I just need to be and use that line. Okay, everything seems fine. So I can turn to toolpath options. So click here, pocket options. I can select my pocket, and then we can use our tool options. My tool maybe can be 10 millimeter diameter with number of loops 4 can be, and then I can click finish here. After that, according to my feed rate and cutting speed, my spindle speed and feed rate calculated automatically. We can also organize our plunge and the feed rate here. And then let's talk about the linking parameters. Linking parameters, according to my geometry, it can be 0, incremental, and incremental 5, and our quick plane also can be incremental with 10 millimeter, and then we can turn to absolute position with our retract and can be 50 millimeter. And then we can click OK button to see our toolpath. Okay, everything seems fine. Then we can turn to cut parameters. It can be in 0 here. We can select conventional machining here with standard pocket type. We can turn to wrapping process to be able to organize my cutting method can be parallel spiral and clean corner. We can unselect spiral inside to outside to be able to create our toolpath outside to inside. And then I don't want to use any entry motion here. Maybe we can select ramp. We can also unselect with finish toolpath, and then I can activate my depth of spot, and it can be 2 millimeter. Okay, this is my lead in and lead out options with ramp and toolpath. It can also be seen clean corner and the toolpath method here. Parallel spread and clean corner. Okay, everything seems fine. And then this is my first toolpath. Okay, congratulations. And then actually we can unselect here and we can turn to right again, and okay, I can turn to view and we can activate our range options here. I can turn here. We can also use view. Oops. According to that perspective, actually we can turn to top. Sorry. And then I'm gonna create some curve on the edge options again. Of course, we can turn to 0 here. We are here right now. I can select that one. Okay. Actually, and this is my actually we can easily calculate our degree here divided by 5. We're gonna get 72. So I'm gonna turn top view again, and then I can use and the duplicate options. Okay, and then I can right mouse click again, and then we can click here, rotate incremental options according to x-axis. We can write our degree here and click OK button. So maybe we should give some name here and VCS 70. Okay, oops, 72. Okay, and let's turn here. Okay, we are here right now, and then of course first, and we can turn here, or maybe we can turn right, and then use transform and rotate options and select all that stuff here, and then we can write here with copy, and then we can use clear color options, and then tool plane again. We can turn that tool plane with top view on VCS. Okay, I can, oops, sorry, we can copy and paste here, and then we can change our geometry. First we need to delete it, and then we can select that chain again. Okay, at that point actually I'm gonna turn to plane options here. This is the tool plane, can be that one and also that one. Okay, and click here, and then you're gonna see our toolpath here. Actually, when I look at to my process, actually you can turn to top view again. We can turn to C plane to right. We can use right mouse button here. So actually, we need to calculate our and the distance here, and it can be actually 10 millimeter. Okay, I'm gonna turn to top again. I can click here and metric parameter can be like this. That double stop can be 10 millimeter. Okay, we can also change that stuff here. Of course, fit plane and must be bigger than the top of stop with incrementally, and this is the absolute coordinate system used for SAV track. Okay, okay, everything seems fine. So this is the focus toolpath actually by using the 4 axis. Okay, thank you very much for listening to me. I really appreciate it, interest. Okay, maybe we should also create extra and the rectangle rotation process here, and then you can create your own, and you can create your own toolpath by using that stuff. Okay, I can select that part and rotate it. We can use minus 72 degree here, and then I can turn to top view again, and you can create your plane here, and you can also select that chain, and then you can create extra toolpath here. Maybe we can also do that for you. Okay, let's do that again. I can use the duplicate options. I can rename it, and we can write VCS actually, and I can write here. Let me calculate it again. This is my total degree. Yeah, that one. Okay, so that's it. Okay, I almost forgot. I also need to rotate that stuff. Okay, we can use the rotate incrementally. We use minus 72 degree to be able to create that kind of actually VCS here. Okay, that's fine. I can copy that one and paste here, and then that part is the same. And click here, delete that chain, and select that one. And then we can turn to plane options actually, and click here, and then we can select that one. And then we can recalculate. Okay, everything seems fine right now. Okay, you can also see the G and 54 and G55 options here again. So that's why we can click here as a manually, and we can write -1. We can also click here -1. We can also click here to get -1. And then we're gonna get only one working coordinate system, G54. We're gonna get, and I'm expecting that one actually. This is my expectation. Okay, when I look at here, this is A0. It's perfect. And this is the pocket operation. Of course, it can be difficult to find. Maybe we should write here A here. Okay, this is my degree, and this is my extra degree. But we can also see the different coordinate system here. Let me check that. And we can turn here, and yeah, you can activate it. You can write 1 and update all of them. You can turn here, 1 and update all of them. We can click here, 1 and update all of them. Yeah, let me check that again. I'm gonna click here to be able to get my code, and then I'm gonna check out my G code again. Okay, this is A0, G55, and then I can click here, yeah, perfect. Okay, everything seems perfect right now. Okay, I can save that file. You can also find MasterCAM file in our Udemy course. Okay, don't hesitate to ask me a question. I am here to answer your question. Thank you very much, and take care.
Hello again, welcome to MasterCAM course. At that lecture, I'm gonna use SolidWorks file again. I can click here. That's my part. Here, and double click on it. Okay, that part is also created by using actually and SolidWorks. Okay, so I'm gonna click here. I can use the front options and then transform, rotate options. I can click here and that's gonna be move here and then rotate and select my part and my degree. So here maybe we should also turn to right view and rotate my part. It can be like this or like this. Okay, and then we can turn to top view again. Okay, this is my product actually. We can also see this some 3-axis operations here and 2-axis operation here and here, and we can also see the 2-axis and 3-axis radius operations here. Okay, and let's start with that part. Okay, default, and I'm gonna use actually and surface finish toolpath here. Of course, before that, let's create some surface here. Okay, so to be able to create actually my and line or wireframe, I can turn to front view and 2D and Z-axis. Here we can also use the and view process here, and I can click here, here, and maybe here, and then actually this is the line, so we can easily use and line and point options here. Okay, let me check that here. This is NURBS actually, and then I can click Z here, and I'm gonna reach here. Maybe we should reorganize it as a 25, and then I can turn here and create my line, and that line here. Okay, and maybe we should also create some and line and line position maybe here, and then I can click here arc 3-point options 1, 2, and 3 here like this. When I am click here, home position and analyze, that's circle, but we can also create some point here and midpoint here, and then I can also create that kind of arc here, and then we can use actually 5 mm radius here. This is home position and analyze. This is actually I cannot use that. This is the 3-axis, so we need to use and 3 mm radius here. So that's why I can write here 3 with line, and maybe we should use and 12 mm tool like this. Okay, so that's fine. I can turn, I'm on the and front view actually right now. We can turn to isometric perspective, and then I can click draft options. This is gonna be my chain. We can use the opposite direction. This is 25. I can write like this. Okay. So after that, we can turn to top view and 2D, I can click here and we can also write 30 as a distance, and then wireframe curve on edge options. Oops. Before that, we can turn to 3D. I can click here and then wireframe and rectangle, step 1 and step 2. Oops, sorry. I turn to 2D, rectangle shapes on 1 and 2. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, we can use mill toolpath and roughing and pocket roughing process. Surface 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's gonna be my boundary, actually. And then we can click here. And then let's create our toolpath. Okay, this is my roughing toolpath. It can be 12 millimeter and with end mill. Actually, this is my feed rate and this is my cutting speed. Okay, so surface, this is can be and maybe clearance plane obsolete and retract 3 and fit plane incremental 1. I'm gonna left 0.25 millimeter for surface. I'm gonna be inside or center of my boundary. This is my boundary, rectangle shapes here. I can turn here. This is can be conventional machining. It can be 0 to and 0, or maybe we can also touch that point as a, and critical depths can be 2D, 3D. Here can be my depth point. Okay, let me click again. That's part. I can click here, here, and then we can analyze that point actually. Yeah, 0 and 8.5. Okay, this is coming from here. So that's why to be able to organize, I need to turn to absolute. We can write 0.1 millimeter and then we can write 8.6 millimeter for and depth of cut range actually. Okay, and this is the gap settings can be and broken and optimize cut order. I can click here and I don't want to use the any entry options here. I'm gonna use parallel spiral clean corner options with and 60% of my tool diameter step over. I'm gonna unselect that path spiral to inside to outside. I don't want to see any finishing process here. And let's recalculate it. Of course, we organize our plane here. Plane is clear right now. Okay, of course, when we turn here, actually, that's not cool. Okay, we need to see the exact and position. So I can click here. This is actually 25. So I need to start with 25 or and 24.95. That must be point actually. Okay, and then this is exact position actually. I can turn here. That must be positive, of course. That's also positive side here. Okay, maybe it can be like this. Okay, we can recalculate it. So everything seems fine right now. Okay, this is my roughing process. Okay, actually, let me focus on that part. This is the Z0 position. This is 25 position, and this is the 8.5 position. So that's why we are and changing and our actually toolpath. Okay, let me enter my parameters again. This is 25 and 8.5. Okay, everything seems fine. Okay, let's create our finish toolpath. Toolpath here and surface finish, and maybe we should use contour toolpath here. I can select my surface like this and my boundary, and then I can create my tool like this with radius, of course. Radius is quite important. Okay, this is and retract 3 and fit plane 1. It can be 0. This is my boundary. My tool center can be on the and my boundary. Optimize cut order. It can be 0 and zigzag position and follow the surface. This is the transaction actually, and one toolpath to another toolpath movement we can call. It can be conventional meaning as a first step, and it's done. I can write 0.15 as a step over, and then we're gonna see that's kind of toolpath. Okay, you can also see some retract movement here or and process. Actually, this is actually follow surface because of the boundary. Actually, sometimes we can see that kind of stuff. Let me cancel my boundary. Oops, okay, that's not work right now. Okay, and I'm gonna add my boundary again. Okay, let me check how can I handle, and that's retract. Okay, actually this is not problem because we extend our surface, so that's why I cannot see any problem about that stuff. This is actually 3 millimeter and 1 millimeter, and the fit plane actually that's not gonna be the problem in that case. Okay, anyway, maybe later we can focus on that part. Okay, I can save my file. Okay, and we can also turn, and that's area maybe wireframe curve on an edge here. I am working on the 3D right now, and we can use the extend options here. Maybe it can be 12 millimeter, and then we can turn to 2D with that position -18, and then we can use a parallel line like this, and we can also add our tool diameter here like this, and then we can create our and rectangle. Okay, that's fine. I can create my toolpath and pocket toolpath. This is gonna be my chain, and maybe we should create different tool here. For example, it can be 10 millimeter diameter tool, and then linking parameters can be incremental and increment. Maybe that part can be and the 40 with absolute incremental 5 I cannot remember the distance here. It can be incremental 10 and incremental 0. It can be conventional machining and 0. This is and the roughing parallel spiral clean corner. And we can also use the ramp options without using the finish toolpath. Of course, we can change our plane here. It can be bottom here and bottom here. Okay, that's fine. We can also add actually and the depth cut here. That's fine. Okay, it's done. If you intend to create and reduce toolpath here, of course, we need to turn actually front and the 2D and 0. We can also use the front view here, and then I can create my circle or arc here, and then I can create and some midpoint or point here and here, and then we are here right now. I just need to write 25, and then we can create our arc. That's one, that's one, and that's one. Okay, we are working on the front view right now. That's gonna turn to arc right now, and then surface and rough surface here and here. Okay, and then we can turn to 3D here with top view, and then I can create my and the curve here and sorry, surface and rough surface here. I can turn to single mode here. Oops, sorry, rough surface. I can click here and sorry, and yeah, that's part. It can be 3, and then I can create extra curve here with and the right C plane and surface and rough with single mode here. Can click here. It can be 10 millimeter maybe. Okay, and then we can turn to top 2D to 40, 30, and I can turn here. Oops, sorry. We can, yeah, we have some curve here because we are, sorry. We can turn to 3D here and some, yeah, we need to write minus actually and 2D and the top view, and then we can create our boundary rectangle starting from here and here. Okay, and then I can create mill toolpath and finish toolpath and contour toolpath here. That's my surface, and that's going to be my, oops, sorry. We can cancel the selection actually, and then select our tool. Okay, it can be 10 millimeter radius 3, 1, and 150 here, and surface roughness and the retract and 0, zigzag and conventional machining, optimized cut order can be 0 to 0, and it can be distance actually, gap settings. Okay, so yeah, that's kind of toolpath process. It's created. Of course, we need to change our plane, top to bottom. Okay, and actually this is the top to bottom. and then you're gonna see that's kind of and toolpath here. Okay. Okay, let's turn to and plane section here. I can use the duplicate options. We can use the rename and VCS with 90 degree, and then we can use the rotate incremental and z-axis. Okay, we are here right now. We can turn to view, VCS, and tool path options. And then we can create our curve. Oops, sorry. Of course, before that, don't forget to turn to 3D here and curve on edge options. And we can extend our actually line. I can turn to 2D and then we can click here. This is 20. And then we can create our parallel line like this. Okay, that's fine. I can create my pocket toolpath here and pocket toolpath. This is my geometry and this is my tool and linking parameters incremental 0, incremental 10 and something like that. Is everything fine? Actually, I just need to change my plane. That's enough. It's and